Broken heart, you're not even half the woman my mother is. My sister-in-law snapped at me across the dinner table. The fork in my hand trembled, and I slowly set it down on the plate. My daughter, sitting right next to me, was smiling nervously, trying to keep the peace, but I had carried this burden for too long. I pushed my chair back, the sound echoing through the room. My voice came out cold and sharp. Then she can start paying your rent. The whole table went silent. You could hear the clinking of the clock on the wall. My daughter's eyes widened, her fork halfway to her mouth. Rent. What rent? She whispered, her face frozen in shock. I locked eyes with her, but before I could explain, my son-in-law dropped his glass, and it shattered into 1,000 pieces on the floor. Everyone jumped. My sister-in-law smirked like she had finally won. But she didn't know that this night was just the beginning of a storm that would tear open secrets nobody was ready to face. That's where I'll pause the moment for now, because before I tell you what happened next, I need to go back and let you know who I am and why that single word, rent, shook my family to its very core. My name is Margaret, though everyone calls me Grandma Maggie. I'm 72 years old, and I live in a quiet town in North Carolina, USA. I may be old, but I've lived a life full of battles. Battles of love, betrayal, sacrifice, and survival. And I'll tell you this, my dear viewers, every wrinkle on my face carries a story. And tonight you'll hear one that will make you sit on the edge of your seat. Before we go any further, let me ask you, where are you watching from? Comment below the city or state, because I love knowing where my family of viewers comes from. And don't forget, please subscribe, like, and click the notification bell so you won't miss what's coming next. Trust me, this story is only getting started. Now let's go back to how it all began, before that shocking dinner. It was a Sunday afternoon, bright and peaceful. Or at least that's what I thought. My daughter, Clara, had invited me over for dinner at her home. I had baked my famous apple pie, the one recipe that even neighbors begged me to share, though I never did. Clara lived with her husband, David, and their 2 children. David's sister, my sister-in-law by marriage, was also living with them temporarily after a rough breakup. Though in truth she had been living off them for almost a year now. I had been helping Clara quietly. She didn't know it, but every month, when David's paycheck fell short, I covered the rent. Clara had no idea because David never told her, and I didn't want to embarrass him. I simply sent the money quietly, believing I was protecting my daughter's marriage and family peace. But peace built on secrets never lasts long. That Sunday, as we all sat around the table, I could feel the tension. My sister-in-law, Veronica, had a sharp tongue and sharper eyes. She had never liked me. Every time I visited, she'd make little comments under her breath about how old-fashioned I was, how my cooking wasn't as good as her mother's, how I interfered too much in Clara's life. But that evening she crossed a line. The conversation had been about simple things at first. The weather, the kids' school, the football game David was excited about. Then, without warning, Veronica turned the talk toward me. You know, Clara, she said, cutting into her meat with exaggerated care. Your husband is so patient. Not many men would put up with a mother-in-law always hanging around, acting like she runs the house. David chuckled nervously, but Clara frowned. She doesn't act like she runs the house. She just helps out sometimes. Veronica's eyes darted to me. Helps out? Please. You can't even compare her to my mother. My mother is a real woman, classy, strong, independent. Not like. She let her words dangle, her smirk saying the rest. That's when the words cut into me. You're not even half the woman my mother is. It was like a knife twisting in my chest. For a moment, I almost held my tongue, but then something inside me snapped. All those months of sacrifice, all the quiet ways I held this family together, forgotten, unseen. And here was Veronica, enjoying the very roof my money had kept over their heads, daring to spit venom at me. So I said it. The one thing I had promised myself I would never say. Then she can start paying your rent. And with that, I lit a fire I could never put out again. The silence afterward was heavy. Everyone stared at me. Rent? What rent? Clara's voice cracked. Her eyes searched mine for answers, but before I could speak, David's glass slipped, shattering onto the floor. His hands were trembling, and sweat beaded on his forehead. And that's when I knew. He had never planned to tell her. He had been living in the comfort of my silence, depending on me to carry the weight of his pride. But that night, the truth had clawed its way to the surface, and there was no pushing it back down. Before I explain what came next, let me take you back a few months earlier, when this whole secret life of rent payments began. The glass lay shattered across the dining room floor, tiny pieces catching the light like dangerous diamonds. David bent down quickly, his hands shaking as he tried to sweep them up with his bare fingers. Clara reached to stop him, but he jerked away, his face pale. Rent? Mom, what are you talking about? Clara's voice was sharp, but her eyes were pleading. I pressed my lips together. My heart was pounding in my chest, so loud I thought everyone could hear it. This was not how I wanted her to find out. Not like this. Veronica leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms smugly. Oh, this is going to be good, she muttered. I shot her a look that could cut steel, but she only raised her eyebrows, daring me to continue. David finally stood, brushing the glass from his hands, his voice shaking. Clara, just eat. Don't listen to this right now. No, David. Clara slammed her palm on the table, her fork rattling against the plate. I want to know. What rent is she talking about? The air was heavy. The children had gone quiet, their little eyes darting between us, sensing something terrible was happening. I swallowed hard. Clara, sweetheart. For months now, I've been helping pay the rent on this house. David hasn't told you, but… Enough! David shouted, his face turning red. He slammed his fist down, the table shaking under the weight of his anger. This is not your place, Maggie. Stay out of it. The words cut me deeper than I expected. Stay out of it. Wasn't I the one who had been keeping them afloat? Wasn't I the one who had made sure their children had a home? That they didn't end up out on the streets? Clara's face went pale. She looked at David like she didn't even recognize him. You've been hiding this from me? David opened his mouth, then closed it, no words coming out. Veronica laughed, a cruel little sound. So that's it. Mommy's been paying your bills. No wonder you've been acting like such a big man. You're pathetic, David. Shut up, Veronica. David roared, turning on her with fire in his eyes. The children flinched, one of them starting to cry. Clara scooped her son into her lap, her hands trembling. David, she whispered. Tell me this isn't true. He didn't answer. His silence was the answer. I wanted to take it all back in that moment. I wanted to tell Clara not to worry, that everything was fine, that her husband was still the man she thought he was. But it was too late. The truth was out, and the truth has a way of burning everything it touches. I stood slowly. Clara, I never meant for you to find out like this. I only wanted to help. I thought I was protecting your family. Clara shook her head, tears streaming down her face. Protecting us? By keeping secrets from me? By covering up for him? She pointed a trembling finger at David. How could you let her do this behind my back? David's jaw clenched. Because I didn't want you to see me as a failure, Clara. Is that what you wanted? For me to admit I couldn't take care of my own family? That I needed your mother's charity? The word charity stung. I whispered. It was never charity. It was love. But no one seemed to hear me. The room was spinning. The children's cries grew louder. Clara's sobs filled the silence between David's heavy breaths. Veronica was still smirking, enjoying every crack in the family she had helped widen. And then the front door swung open. A cold wind rushed into the house, and standing in the doorway was a man none of us expected to see that night. It was my son, Clara's brother, Michael. His face was hard, his eyes filled with something I couldn't read. He hadn't been around in years, not since he left town after a fight with David. What's going on here? Michael's voice was low, but it carried across the room like thunder. The whole table froze. And in that moment I knew, things were about to spiral in ways none of us were prepared for. Michael stood in the doorway, his tall frame casting a shadow across the dining room floor. The wind behind him made the curtains flutter, and for a moment it felt like the whole house had gone cold. Michael! I whispered, my voice barely audible. My heart raced. I hadn't seen him in almost 4 years. Clara gasped, her tears momentarily forgotten. Michael? What are you doing here? David stiffened, his face draining of color. Of all people, Michael was the last man he wanted to see. Their last meeting had ended with fists flying and bitter words neither had taken back. Michael's eyes swept across the room, catching every detail. The broken glass on the floor, the children crying softly, Clara's tear-stained face, and me standing rigid, caught in the center of it all. Finally, his gaze landed on David. "What did you do this time?" he asked, his voice like steel. David shot back, his jaw tight. "This isn't your business. Get out." Michael stepped fully inside, shutting the door behind him. The click of the lock echoed like a warning. "When it's about my mother and my sister, it's my business." The air thickened. Clara stood up, still holding her son, her voice shaking. "Michael, please, this isn't the time." But Michael wasn't listening. He was staring at David with a fury that looked years old. "I should have known. You always acted like you had everything under control, like you were better than me. But here you are, living on Mom's money while pretending you're the man of the house." David's fists clenched. "You don't know anything about what it means to be a man, Michael. You ran off when things got tough. You abandoned your family." Michael's face darkened, and his voice rose. "I left because of you. You poisoned everything between me and Clara. You made me feel like I was worthless, like I couldn't protect my own sister. And now I see you for what you really are, a fraud." The words hung in the air like a blade about to fall. I stepped forward quickly, raising my hands. "Enough. Both of you. This is not the place, not in front of the children." But deep inside, I knew the fire had already been lit. Years of anger, secrets, and pride were colliding in that room, and nothing I said could stop it. Veronica leaned back in her chair, her smirk widening. She was enjoying the chaos too much. "Oh, this is better than television. Please keep going." I turned on her sharply. "Not another word from you." My voice was low, dangerous. For once, she went silent, though her grin remained. Clara's voice cracked as she turned to her brother. "Michael, please stop. This is my family. Don't." "Your family?" Michael cut her off, his voice shaking with emotion. "You think this man is your family? He's been lying to you, Clara. And Mom." He turned toward me, his eyes softening just for a moment. "You should have told her the truth long ago. Maybe then she wouldn't be stuck with a man like this." David lunged forward, his face red with rage. "Say one more word and I'll." The children screamed as Michael grabbed David by the collar, slamming him against the wall. The pictures rattled, one frame crashing down and shattering across the floor. "Stop it!" Clara shrieked, her voice breaking as tears streamed down her face. She tried to pull Michael back, but he was too strong, his fury too wild. I rushed to Michael's side, my frail hands pressing against his arm. "Michael, please. Let him go. This isn't the way." For a moment I saw the little boy he once was, the boy who used to cling to me when thunderstorms shook the house. His grip loosened slightly, but his eyes never left David's. "You'll never hurt this family again," Michael growled. David shoved him back, his chest heaving, his own rage boiling over. "This is my house. My wife. My kids. You don't belong here anymore." The room was trembling with tension, every second threatening to explode into something irreversible. Clara collapsed into a chair, sobbing into her hands, the children clinging to her. And then just when I thought things couldn't get worse, there was a loud, sharp knock at the front door. Everyone froze. 3 knocks. Hard. Deliberate. We all turned, staring at the door. The sound sent chills down my spine. At this hour, no one ever came unannounced. Michael released David, both men now staring at the door with suspicion. Clara looked at me, her eyes wide with fear. I stepped slowly toward the entrance, my heart pounding louder with every step. When I opened the door, I gasped. Standing there was a man in a dark suit, holding a thick envelope in his hand. His expression was grim, his eyes cold. "Margaret Johnson?" he asked, his voice flat. "Yes," I managed to whisper. He handed me the envelope. "You've been served." The words hit me like a thunderclap. I clutched the envelope, my hands trembling as the man turned and walked away into the night. Behind me, Clara's voice broke through the silence. "Mom, what is that?" I turned slowly, staring at the envelope, my stomach twisting. "This," I said, my throat dry. "This changes everything." And with that, the room erupted in gasps, questions, and fear. The storm had only just begun. The envelope in my hand felt heavier than stone. My fingers trembled as I stared at it, unable to tear my eyes away. Everyone was waiting for me to speak, their eyes wide with questions, their fear filling the room like smoke. "Mom!" Clara's voice cracked as she stepped closer. "What is it?" I swallowed hard, but my throat was dry. My hand shook as I slowly broke the seal and slid the papers out. The sound of the paper crackling filled the silence. Michael stood at my side, his jaw tight. David kept his distance, but his eyes followed my every move. Even Veronica leaned forward, her smirk gone, her curiosity now burning. I unfolded the papers and began to read. My heart sank with every word. It's an eviction notice," I whispered. The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Clara gasped, clutching her chest. "Eviction? But this is our home." David's face went pale. He reached out and snatched the papers from me, his eyes scanning them quickly. His lips moved as he read, his breathing uneven. Then, with a curse under his breath, he crumpled the papers in his fist and slammed them on the table. "This can't be happening," he muttered. "Not now." Michael turned sharply toward him. "Not now? You knew this was coming, didn't you?" David shook his head violently. "No. I thought I had more time. I was working on it." "Working on it?" Clara screamed, her voice filled with betrayal. "David, how could you keep this from me? How could you let us sit here eating dinner while our home was slipping out from under us?" Her tears streamed freely now. The children clung to her legs, confused and scared, their little faces pressed against her dress. I stepped forward, my voice calm but firm. "Clara, I've been helping as much as I could. Every month I paid what David couldn't. But I didn't know it had come to this. I didn't know we were this close to losing everything." Clara looked at me with wide, broken eyes. "Mom, you've been carrying this alone?" Michael's hand curled into a fist. "No. She hasn't been carrying it alone. She's been carrying him." He glared at David. "You've been hiding behind her sacrifices while pretending you had everything under control." David's face twisted with shame and anger. "You think it's easy? You think being a man trying to provide is simple? You wouldn't understand, Michael. You walked away years ago. You left us. You don't get to come back now and judge me." Michael stepped closer, his voice like ice. "I left because of you. And seeing this, I should have come back sooner." Veronica suddenly stood, her voice cutting through the tension. "All of you are pathetic. Fighting, crying, blaming each other. When the truth is, none of you know how to handle real responsibility. No wonder my mother always said David married beneath himself. That was the wrong thing to say." Clara's head snapped toward her, her eyes blazing through her tears. "Get out." Veronica laughed bitterly. "Excuse me. I said get out of my house." Clara screamed, her voice echoing off the walls. "You've done nothing but stir poison in this family. You've sat here rent-free, eating our food, mocking my mother, while she's the only reason we even have a roof over our heads. Get out." The room went dead silent. Veronica's smug expression faltered. She looked around, waiting for David to defend her, but he stayed silent, his eyes fixed on the floor. Slowly, with a scoff, Veronica grabbed her purse. "Fine. You'll regret this, Clara. All of you will regret this." She stormed toward the door, but before she could open it, Michael stepped into her path. "You're not taking anything from this house that doesn't belong to you," he warned. His voice was low but deadly serious. Veronica's lips curled, but she didn't argue. She shoved past him and slammed the door behind her. The silence that followed was thick, broken only by Clara's sobs. I moved to her side, placing a hand on her trembling shoulder. "We'll figure this out, Clara. Somehow we'll get through this." But even as I said it, fear gnawed at my chest, because deep down I knew this was bigger than all of us. Michael picked up the crumpled eviction notice, smoothing it out with shaking hands. He studied it carefully, his face growing darker with every line he read. "This isn't just about missed rent," he said finally. His voice was grim, steady. This is about something else." "What do you mean?" I asked. He looked up, his eyes locking with mine. "Mom, this notice isn't from the landlord. It's from the bank. My blood ran cold. The bank. Clara whispered, her voice barely audible. Michael nodded. Which means this isn't just rent. This house was already signed over as collateral for a loan. He turned his eyes back to David. A loan you never told anyone about. Clara gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. David, tell me he's lying. But David couldn't speak. His silence screamed louder than words. The room began to spin. My heart pounded in my chest as the truth sank in deeper. This wasn't just about a secret rent. This was about something far more dangerous. Something that could destroy us all. And before I could catch my breath, a loud crash echoed outside the house. The sound of glass shattering. Everyone froze. Michael rushed to the window, his face tightening as he peered into the darkness. Mom. Clara. He turned slowly, his voice low and urgent. Someone's out there. And just like that, the storm we thought was inside these walls had spilled into the night. The crash outside split the night like a scream. Everyone froze where they were, hearts thundering in the silence that followed. Michael was already at the window, his shoulders tense, his breath fogging the glass. He lifted the curtain just slightly, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the yard. What is it? Clara whispered, clutching her children tighter against her. Michael didn't answer right away. He turned his head slowly, his expression dark. The back window in the garage, it's been smashed. Clara's face drained of color. Oh my God. David moved quickly toward the kitchen, his hands fumbling in the drawer until he pulled out a flashlight. But the way his fingers shook told me he was more afraid than prepared. Stay here, Michael ordered, his voice firm. No. Clara cried out. Michael, don't go out there. But Michael was already pulling open the front door. Cold night air rushed in, making the curtains whip like flags. He stepped outside, the darkness swallowing him whole. Clara sobbed, rocking her youngest child back and forth. David hovered near the door, torn between following Michael and staying where it was safe. I sat frozen, my hands clutching the eviction papers still lying on the table. My mind was racing with questions. Who would be out there? Why now? On the very night everything was unraveling. From the yard came the sound of footsteps crunching against gravel. Then silence. Michael. I called, my voice trembling. No answer. David finally swallowed hard and stepped outside after him, the beam of his flashlight cutting across the yard. The light swung wildly, bouncing off the garage, the bushes, the old swing set where the children used to play. Then, suddenly, a figure darted past the light. Clara screamed. I pressed my hand to my chest, my knees nearly giving out. Who's there? Michael shouted into the night. His voice was hard, steady, but I could hear the fury beneath it. No answer. Only the wind. And then from the shadows, a rock came flying. It struck the side of the house with a loud thud, making everyone inside flinch. Michael, come back. Clara begged, her voice breaking. Please don't. But before she could finish, the sound of running footsteps echoed down the street, fading into the night. Whoever it was, they were gone. David lowered the flashlight slowly, his chest heaving. Michael remained still, staring into the darkness long after the footsteps had disappeared. Finally, he turned back toward the house. It wasn't random, he said when he stepped inside, his jaw tight. Someone wanted to scare us. The room was thick with fear. Clara hugged her children close, whispering soft reassurances. She didn't believe herself. David set the flashlight on the table, rubbing his forehead with trembling hands. Why now? Clara whispered. Why tonight? Michael glanced at the eviction papers still on the table. Because someone doesn't want us here, and they're making sure we know it. I felt the blood drain from my face. I had lived long enough to know when something wasn't just coincidence. This wasn't bad luck. This was planned. Veronica's words came back to me like poison. You'll regret this, Clara. All of you will regret this. Could it be her? Had she left and come back to frighten us? Or was it something far worse, connected to the loan David had kept hidden? The night stretched on, heavy and restless. We locked every door, every window, but sleep never came. The children finally dozed off in Clara's arms, their soft breaths the only sound in the room. Hours later, just as I was starting to drift, there came another knock at the door. This one was different, slow, heavy, deliberate. 3 knocks. We all jolted awake. Michael grabbed the flashlight again, signaling for everyone to stay back. He crept to the door, his shoulders tense. Clara held her breath, clinging to the children. David stood frozen, his fists clenched but useless. Michael pulled the door open and gasped. On the doorstep lay a small wooden box. No one was there. Michael bent down slowly, lifting it into the light. His hands were steady, but I could see the muscle in his jaw twitching. He set the box on the table, and we all gathered around. With trembling fingers, he opened it. Inside was a single item, an old rusted house key. And underneath it, a note written in thick black ink. You don't belong here. Leave before it's too late. The room went silent. Clara's hand flew to her mouth. David's face turned ashen. Michael's eyes burned with fury as he crumpled the note in his fist. And me? My whole body went cold, because I recognized that key. It wasn't just any key. It was the key to the house I had once shared with my late husband, Clara and Michael's father. A house we left behind decades ago. After the tragedy no one in this family ever dared to speak about. Someone out there knew. Someone out there was dragging the past into the present. And I knew in that moment that the real storm had only just begun. The rusted key lay on the table, glinting under the weak kitchen light. It looked ordinary to anyone else, but to me, it wasn't just a key. It was a ghost. Clara stared at me, her eyes wide and demanding. Mom, why do you look like you've seen a ghost? What's wrong with that key? I pressed my trembling hands together, my throat dry. Because it doesn't belong here. That's the key to the house I once lived in with your father. The house we left after the fire. Michael's head snapped toward me. The fire? You mean the one you never wanted to talk about? The one you told us to forget? I nodded slowly, my chest heavy. Yes. The room grew still. Even David stopped pacing and looked at me, his eyes wide. Mom, Clara whispered, her voice breaking. Who would even have that key? And why bring it here now? I shook my head. I don't know. But whoever left it, they know something about our past. Something I never told either of you. Michael slammed his hand on the table, making the key jump. Then it's time you tell us now, Mom. No more secrets. His words cut, but they were true. Still, the weight of the memories pressed down on me like chains. Memories of that night, the flames licking the walls, the screams, the smoke, and the secret I had buried for decades. Before I could speak, Clara gasped, pointing at the note that had come with the key. Mom, look at the handwriting. We all leaned closer. Her hand shook as she traced the ink. This looks familiar. I've seen it before. Michael frowned. Where? Clara's voice cracked. On the old birthday cards we used to get from Aunt Lillian. My heart stopped. Aunt Lillian. My husband's sister. A woman I hadn't spoken to in over 30 years. A woman who blamed me for the fire. Who swore I had destroyed everything. No, I whispered, my knees going weak. It can't be her. She's gone. She disappeared after your father's funeral. Nobody's heard from her since. Michael's jaw tightened. Maybe you haven't. But clearly someone out there hasn't forgotten. The room spun. I clutched the edge of the table, trying to steady myself. If it was true, if Lillian was alive, if she was back, it meant the past I had locked away was about to explode in all our faces. David finally spoke, his voice hoarse. This has to be some kind of prank. Nobody cares about a fire from 30 years ago. Michael turned on him sharply. Shut up, David. You've lied enough tonight. You don't get to decide what matters anymore. Clara's tears flowed silently now as she clutched her children close. Her whole body shook. Mom, please tell us what happened in that house. Tell us why this key is here. I opened my mouth, the words caught in my throat. But before I could speak, a loud crash thundered from the back of the house. Everyone screamed. Michael grabbed the flashlight again, bolting toward the sound. David followed reluctantly, his face pale. Clara sobbed, pulling the children into her arms. I forced myself to move, my legs shaking, my heart pounding. We reached the back door, only to find it wide open, the cold night air rushing in. And on the floor another box, smaller this time, Michael picked it up, his jaw tight, his hand steady. He opened it slowly, and inside was something that made my blood run cold. A charred piece of wood. From the house fire. The smell of smoke clung to it even after all these years. And taped to it another note. The fire was only the beginning. The truth will burn brighter this time. The room spun around me. My breath caught in my chest. Because in that moment I realized something terrifying. Whoever was behind this wasn't just digging up the past. They wanted revenge. And they were coming for us. Michael stood frozen, the note still in his hand, his knuckles white from how tightly he gripped it. The flashlight beam wavered, bouncing shadows across the walls, making the house feel alive and breathing. Clara gasped, shaking her head in disbelief. This isn't real. It can't be. Who would do something this cruel? I couldn't move. My throat tightened, my body numb. That charred piece of wood. It wasn't just a random piece. I recognized it. The blackened corner, the splintered edge. It came from the front doorway of our old home. The place I had run through carrying my daughter as flames raged behind us. David broke the silence, his voice trembling. Okay, this is insane. We need to call the police right now. Michael shot him a glare. And tell them what? That someone's leaving creepy presents on our porch? They'll laugh at us. No, Clara said firmly, clutching her children. This isn't a joke. Someone is threatening us. Someone who knows too much. Her words hit me like a hammer. My secret, the truth about what really happened that night, was clawing its way out of the shadows. Michael turned to me, his jaw tight. Mom, enough games. What happened in that fire? What did you hide from us? The room went silent. Everyone's eyes burned into me. I opened my mouth, but my voice came out cracked. That night, it wasn't just a fire. It wasn't an accident. Clara gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. David muttered under his breath, pacing in small circles. Michael stepped closer, his face inches from mine. What do you mean it wasn't an accident? Who started it? I felt my knees weakening. The walls closed in. It was your father. The room erupted. Clara's shouted. No. That's impossible. While Michael froze, his eyes wide with disbelief. I pressed my hands to my chest, my heart pounding. He was drunk that night. Angry. We had fought. He knocked over the lamp, the curtains caught fire. But before I could put it out, he locked the door. Clara screamed. He what? Tears blurred my vision. He didn't want me to leave. He thought if we all burned together it would prove his love. I grabbed you, Clara, and ran. But I couldn't save everything. And your Aunt Lillian, she saw me escape. She blamed me for letting him die. Michael staggered back, his face pale. All these years, you let us believe it was just an accident. You let us grieve without the truth. I collapsed into a chair, sobbing. I wanted to protect you. I thought the past was buried. But clearly someone doesn't want it buried. Suddenly, the lights flickered, then went out completely. The children screamed. Clara pulled them close, rocking them as her tears mixed with their cries. Michael lifted the flashlight, sweeping it across the darkened room. David cursed under his breath, grabbing a kitchen knife from the counter. Who's out there? Michael shouted into the shadows. Show yourself. No answer. Just the hollow groan of the wind seeping through the cracked back door. Then we heard it. A soft tapping. Not from the doors. Not from the windows. From upstairs. The sound echoed through the floorboards, slow and deliberate. Top. 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 Clara clutched her children tighter, her voice trembling. There's someone in the house. Michael's face hardened, his fists clenched. Stay here, he ordered. I'm going up. I grabbed his arm. No, Michael. Don't. It could be a trap. But he pulled away, determination blazing in his eyes. If we don't face this now, it'll never stop. David followed him reluctantly, knife in hand. The stairs creaked under their weight, every step heavier than the last. We listened from below, holding our breath. Then, a scream tore through the silence. Michael's voice. Mom. Clara. Get up here now. My blood turned to ice. Clara's grip on me tightened, her whole body shaking. We scrambled up the stairs, my legs weak, my heart slamming against my ribs. At the top of the landing, Michael stood frozen, flashlight beam aimed at the end of the hallway. His face was pale, his breathing ragged. We followed the light. And there, hanging on the wall where family portraits once were, was a large, burned photograph. It showed our old house, the night of the fire. Flames rising high into the sky. And circled in red ink, drawn recently, was the shadow of a figure standing in the window. Not your father. Not me. Someone else. And underneath the picture, in jagged handwriting, were the words. I saw everything. Michael's hands shook as he held the flashlight steady on the burned photograph. His voice cracked, raw with fury. Who put this here? No one answered. Only the silence of the hallway, heavy and suffocating. Clara gasped, covering her mouth. That's our house, the night of the fire. But that figure. She trailed off, trembling. I stared at the circled shadow in the window, my stomach turning. It's not your father, I whispered. And it's not me. David gripped the knife tighter, his knuckles white. Then who the hell was it? Someone was there that night. Watching. Michael tore the photograph from the wall and shoved it toward me. Mom, you said your husband started the fire. You said Aunt Lillian saw you leave. But this, he shook the photo in my face. This means someone else was in that house. And they've been waiting all these years to show themselves. Clara shivered, pulling her children close. Why now? Why bring it up after so long? I didn't have an answer. My mind spun, drowning in memories. The screams, the smoke, the way I had carried Clara through the flames. I thought I knew the truth. But now everything I believed about that night crumbled. A loud thud echoed from downstairs. Everyone jumped. David cursed under his breath. This house is cursed. I swear, we need to get out of here before we all lose our minds. Michael glared at him. And go where? Whoever's doing this will just follow us. This is personal. They want us here. We crept back down the stairs, every step a battle against the fear tightening in our chests. Michael's flashlight flickered, the shadows dancing on the walls like mocking figures. When we reached the living room, my heart stopped. The front door was wide open. Clara gasped. No. We locked it. Cold night air rushed in, whipping the curtains. On the floor, right in the center of the doorway, lay a small object. Michael bent down slowly, shining the light over it. His jaw tightened. It was a locket. Old. Tarnished. The same one I had lost the night of the fire. My knees buckled. No, that can't be. Clara looked at me, confused. What locket, Mom? I swallowed hard, tears stinging my eyes. It was your father's gift to me. I wore it every day until that night. I thought it was gone forever. Michael opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a tiny black and white photo, me much younger, smiling, with Clara as a baby in my arms. And opposite that was a new photo, a close-up of the burned house, taken recently. Tucked behind it was another note. You left more behind than you think. I never forgot. Neither should you. The room spun around me. I could barely breathe. Someone had been inside that house, after the fire, collecting what was left. And now, after decades, they were haunting me with it. Clara's voice cracked. Mom! Whoever this is, they don't just know the past. They want to drag us back into it. Michael's face hardened. Then we need to fight back. Enough hiding. Enough lies. But before I could answer, the sound of breaking glass shattered the night. From upstairs, the children screamed. Clara clutched them tighter, sobbing. David swore and held the knife out, backing toward the stairs. Michael pointed the flashlight upward, his body rigid. Stay here, he barked, charging up the stairs. No, Michael. I cried, my voice breaking. But he was already gone, his heavy footsteps pounding against the wood. We waited in silence, the house echoing with the sound of his movements. Then, another scream. This one louder. More desperate. Help! Michael's voice roared from upstairs. I felt my heart stop. We all rushed toward the stairs, fear choking us. At the top, Michael stood outside Clara's old bedroom, the door wide open. His flashlight beam shook wildly as he pointed inside. I followed his gaze. And what I saw froze my blood. On the floor, spread out in a perfect circle, were dozens of photographs. Every single one was of me, some old from my youth, some recent, taken without my knowledge. And in the middle of the circle, written on the floor in thick black ink, were the words, "You should have burned with him." Clara screamed, clutching her children's hands as her knees buckled at the sight. Michael dropped the flashlight, its beam rolling across the floor and flickering over the photographs scattered in a circle like some twisted ritual. I stepped closer, my legs trembling beneath me. My face stared back at me from every angle, laughing in old family photos, frowning in recent ones taken without my knowledge, even candid shots of me in the grocery store. Someone had been watching me for years. And then my eyes fell on the message scrawled in black ink at the center of the circle. "You should have burned with him." My body went cold, my breath shallow. Michael's fist shook at his sides. "This isn't just some random sicko. Whoever's doing this knows us. They've been watching us all along." Clara turned to me, her eyes wide, full of fear and something else, something like accusation. "Mom, you said Dad started the fire. You said Aunt Lillian saw you leave. But what if," her voice broke, "what if you're not telling us everything?" Her words cut me like a knife. Tears welled in my eyes. "Clara, I swear to you, I told you the truth. I carried you out. I fought to save you." Michael's jaw tightened. "Then why does this person want you dead? Why say you should have burned with him?" David, silent until now, stepped forward, his eyes darting nervously around the room. "Because maybe she's not as innocent as she claims." "David," Clara snapped, glaring at him. But his words lingered in the air, poisonous. Michael turned to me, his face pale, his voice low and sharp. "Mom, what aren't you telling us?" The weight of their stares pressed down on me. I wanted to scream, to confess everything, to rip the truth from my chest. But before I could speak, the youngest child, little Sarah, pointed at the far corner of the room. "Grandma," she whispered, her voice trembling. "Someone's outside." We all froze. Michael snatched up the flashlight and spun toward the window. The beam cut through the glass, slicing across the night. And there, just for a split second, we saw it. A figure. Standing in the yard. Watching. Then gone. Michael cursed and bolted for the stairs. "I'm not letting them get away this time." Clara screamed after him. "Michael, no." But he was already thundering down the steps. David followed, gripping the knife like a weapon. I grabbed Clara's trembling hands. "Stay with the children. Don't move." We rushed downstairs, hearts pounding, but when we flung open the back door, the yard was empty. The night air was sharp, the grass wet beneath our feet. No footsteps. No shadows. Nothing. Michael growled, pacing the yard like a caged animal. "They were right here. I saw them. I swear it." David scanned the trees, his breath heavy. "Maybe it's your mind playing tricks. Maybe we're all going crazy in that cursed house." Michael spun, grabbing David by the collar. "You think this is a joke? You think those photos just appeared on their own?" They shoved each other, rage flaring. Clara cried out, begging them to stop, her voice breaking. And then, a sound cut through the chaos. A faint, crackling noise. I turned my head slowly, my stomach twisting with dread. Smoke. Thick, dark smoke curling up from the side of the house. "No," I whispered, my chest tightening. "Not again." Clara screamed. "The house is on fire." Panic exploded. Michael and David raced toward the smoke. Clara pulled the children into her arms, crying hysterically. I stumbled after them, my heart hammering in my chest. The memories of that night so many years ago crashing back like a tidal wave. And then we saw it. Flames licking the curtains of the downstairs study. The room burning from the inside out. The fire was back. The smoke spread faster than I could breathe. Thick, black clouds rolled out of the study, swallowing the hallway, making my eyes burn and my lungs scream for air. "Get the children out!" I cried, my voice breaking as I shoved Clara toward the front door. She clutched Sarah and Daniel, coughing violently, her face streaked with tears. Michael grabbed a blanket off the couch, soaked it under the kitchen tap, and slapped it against the flames, but it was useless. The fire roared louder, almost alive, devouring the walls and curling up the staircase. "It's spreading too fast." David shouted, panic sharp in his voice. He looked at me, wild-eyed, the knife still in his hand. This isn't normal fire. It's like someone doused this place in fuel. Clara screamed from the doorway. We can't get out. The front door won't open. Michael bolted to her side, yanking at the knob, kicking the wood, but it wouldn't budge. It was as if the door had been locked from the outside. My heart stopped. Trapped. We were trapped. The children coughed, their small bodies shaking, their cries piercing through the roar of the fire. Clara held them close, rocking them desperately as the flames inched closer. Michael grabbed a chair and smashed it against the door. Once. Twice. The wood splintered, but it still wouldn't give. Damn it, he roared. Upstairs. David shouted, his voice hoarse. We can jump from the windows. I hesitated, my legs trembling. The fire. The smoke. It was happening all over again. My husband's face flashed before my eyes. The night he trapped me inside. The heat clawing at my skin as I fought to escape. But this time, I wasn't alone. This time my family was with me. Go. I screamed, pushing Clara toward the stairs. Take the children. Now. We stumbled upward, the heat licking at our backs, smoke chasing us like a predator. Sarah's small coughs rattled in my ears, each one breaking my heart. At the top of the stairs, Michael kicked open Clara's old bedroom door. He rushed to the window, throwing it up with all his strength. Cold night air burst inside, a cruel contrast to the choking heat. One by one, he ordered, his voice raw. Clara, kids first. Clara sobbed as she lowered Sarah and Daniel out of the window, Michael and David guiding them down onto the slanted roof below. The children scrambled, terrified but alive. Clara followed, her hands trembling as she crawled down after them. Mom, your turn, Michael shouted. But something caught my eye. In the flames below, through the crackling fire, I saw it. On the desk inside the burning study, a folder. Old. Yellowed. Its edges curling from the heat. And on the front, in bold black letters, was my name. Margaret. My knees buckled. What is that? I whispered. Michael grabbed my arm. Emma, forget it. We don't have time. But I couldn't move. That folder, someone had planted it here. It wasn't mine. It wasn't supposed to be in this house. And if it burned, whatever secrets it carried would be lost forever. Get Mom out. David shouted, climbing out the window. But before Michael could push me forward, a voice cut through the chaos. Low, cold, almost whispering. From the smoke. You don't leave this time. I froze. My blood ran cold. Someone was in the house. The figure emerged through the smoke, tall and cloaked in shadows, their face hidden. The firelight flickered against them, but their eyes, dark, burning with hatred, locked onto mine. Michael's face twisted in rage. Who are you? He bellowed, grabbing a piece of broken wood like a weapon. The figure didn't answer. They simply pointed straight at me. And then the floor beneath us groaned, cracked, and gave way. The world tilted. Michael screamed my name. Clara shrieked from outside. The children cried in terror. And I was falling. Into the fire. The world was fire. Heat swallowed me whole as the floor caved in. My body crashing onto the burning wreckage below. My scream tore through the smoke, cut short by the searing pain that wrapped around me like a vice. Sparks rained down, biting into my skin, and the flames roared as though they had been waiting for me all along. Mom! Michael's voice bellowed from above, broken and desperate. Hold on. I'm coming. But his voice felt far away, muffled by the hiss and crackle of fire. My lungs screamed, choking on the smoke as I clawed at the burning floor, trying to pull myself free. And then through the haze I saw it. The folder. It lay just inches from me, edges curling, the letters of my name blistering from the heat. Margaret. I reached for it, my trembling fingers brushing the cover. The cardboard burned my skin, but I held on, dragging it against my chest. Whoever had left it here wanted me to find it. Wanted me to see what was inside. Above me, Michael's flashlight beam shook wildly as he leaned down through the hole. Emma, take my hand. I staggered upward, the folder clutched against me, but the smoke blurred my vision. My body was weak, my legs heavy. I could hear Clara screaming outside, the children crying, Michael shouting, David swearing as he tried to find rope. But then, a shadow moved through the flames. The figure. They were here with me. Tall, cloaked in darkness, their face hidden by the smoke. They walked slowly, deliberately, as if the fire couldn't touch them. The flames seemed to bend around them, sparing their body as they came closer. I stumbled back, coughing, clutching the folder tighter. "Who are you?" I screamed, my voice hoarse. "What do you want from me?" The figure stopped just a few feet away, the heat shimmering between us. Then in a low, rasping voice they spoke. "You left him to die." My blood froze. My knees gave way. "No," I whispered. "No, I didn't. I tried to save him." The figure tilted their head, their voice a dagger. "You should have burned with him." Tears streamed down my face, mixing with the sweat and ash. Please tell me who you are." But before they could answer, Michael's arm shot down through the hole, his hand reaching desperately for mine. Now. I dropped the folder onto the ground for just a second, grabbing his wrist with everything I had left. He heaved, groaning, pulling me upward inch by inch. My body scraped against the broken wood, the heat clawing at my legs, but I held on. Just as he dragged me halfway out of the fire, the figure bent down and picked up the folder. I saw it in their hands, tucked beneath their arm, the flames licking its edges but never consuming it. "No," I screamed, reaching for it, but Michael yanked me upward, out of the flames, onto the landing above. I collapsed against him, coughing, gasping, my body trembling. Clara sobbed with relief, clutching me tight, while David slammed the bedroom door shut against the smoke. But through the smoke, through the crack in the collapsing floor, I saw them. The figure, holding the folder. And before the fire swallowed them from view, I saw their eyes. Dark. Familiar. Eyes I had seen before. Eyes that belonged to someone I once trusted. The truth was closer now. Too close. And whoever they weren't finished with me yet. The cold night air hit me like a slap as Michael and David dragged me out through the upstairs window onto the slanted roof. Clara pulled at me, sobbing, her children clinging to her like frightened birds. I could still feel the fire on my skin, still hear its roar, still taste the smoke clawing at my throat. But worse than all of that, I could still see those eyes. Dark. Familiar. Watching me as the figure vanished with the folder that carried my name. "Mom, breathe," Clara begged, shaking me as tears streaked down her face. "Please just breathe." I coughed violently, my chest rattling, but I forced air into my lungs. "The folder," I croaked. They took it." Michael's face twisted in confusion and fury. Who took it?" "The figure," I wheezed, clutching at his sleeve. "They were in the fire. They didn't burn. They took the folder with my name." David cut me off sharply, his voice trembling with anger. "Enough with the folder. Enough with secrets. Who the hell is doing this to us, Maggie?" His words ripped through the night. Clara flinched, her children whimpering at the sound of his shout. I looked at all of them, my children, my grandchildren, and I knew the truth could no longer stay buried. "The eyes," I whispered. "I know those eyes." Michael froze. Clara gasped. David leaned forward, gripping the knife tighter. "Whose eyes, Maggie?" I trembled, my lips quivering. The fire below roared louder, sparks bursting into the night like fireworks, but I barely heard it. My mind was trapped in the past, 30 years ago, the night of the fire. "Your father wasn't the only one in that house," I said at last. My voice shook, but I forced the words out. "Someone else was there. Someone I trusted. And those eyes," I swallowed hard, "belonged to your Aunt Lillian." Clara's scream shattered the silence. No, she disappeared. She's gone." Michael staggered back, his face pale, his chest heaving. "You mean to tell me, all this time she's been out there? Watching us?" I nodded slowly, tears streaming down my ash-stained cheeks. "She hated me after the fire. She said I let him die, that I escaped when I should have burned with him. And now she's come back for me." David cursed under his breath, pacing wildly on the roof. "This is insane. Absolutely insane. You're saying she's been hiding for 30 years just to haunt us now?" "She's not haunting us," I said, my voice low, trembling. "She's punishing us. And she won't stop until I'm gone." Clara clutched her children tighter, sobbing uncontrollably. "This is my family. My babies. She can't drag us into her madness." Michael turned on me suddenly, his eyes blazing. Why didn't you tell us sooner, Mom? Why did you let us think she was gone? Because I thought she was. I cried, my voice breaking. I thought she disappeared for good. But I was wrong. I was so wrong. The roof creaked beneath us, groaning from the heat of the fire below. Smoke curled around us, making the children cough. Michael grabbed Sarah in his arms, helping Clara and Daniel toward the tree just beside the roofline. One at a time, he ordered. We climb down before this roof caves in too. David went first, sliding onto a branch, muttering curses under his breath. Clara followed with Daniel, her tears still falling, her body shaking. Michael lowered Sarah carefully, whispering comfort even as his own face twisted with fear. Finally, it was me and Michael left. He turned his jaw tight. Come on, Mom. We don't have time. But before I could move, a sound cut through the night. A woman's voice. Low, cold, echoing through the crackle of fire. You can run, Maggie, but you can't hide from me. I froze, my blood turning to ice. Michael's head whipped around, his eyes wide. Who said that? The voice came again, closer this time. I saw everything. And now they will too. From the dark trees surrounding the yard, a shape moved. A figure. Watching us. And then, the piercing sound of shattering glass ripped through the night. We all turned toward the ground floor of the burning house. Through the smoke and flames we saw it. The study window exploding outward. And flying through the smoke was the folder. Thrown from inside. It landed in the yard, blackened and smoldering. The word Margaret still burned across the cover. But before anyone could move, a shadowy hand reached out from the flames, snatched it from the grass, and disappeared into the woods. Clara screamed. Michael cursed. I collapsed onto the roof sobbing. As now it was undeniable. Lillian wasn't just alive. She was here. And she had everything she needed to destroy us. The forest swallowed her. We all stared into the darkness, hearts pounding, breath shaking, as the last flicker of the figure's shadow disappeared among the trees. The folder was gone. Again. And with it, any hope of controlling the truth. Michael swore under his breath, fists clenched tight. I saw her. I swear to God I saw her. She was standing there like she'd been waiting for us. Clara was shaking so hard she could barely hold the children. Daniel whimpered into her chest while Sarah buried her face in her mother's neck. This isn't fair, Clara cried. Why us? Why now? What does she even want with us? She doesn't want you, I said softly, my voice breaking. She wants me. David turned on me like a storm. His face was ash-streaked, eyes wild. Then give her what she wants, Maggie. She's destroying our lives, terrorizing our kids, burning down our home. All because of you. You should have told us years ago. Tears stung my eyes. You think I didn't carry this every single day? You think I didn't wake up at night hearing his screams, seeing the fire, wondering if I deserved to survive? Stop. Michael barked, stepping between us before David could spit another word. We don't have time for this. She's out there, watching us, waiting for us to fall apart. That's exactly what she wants. His words rang true. Lillian wasn't just chasing me. She was tearing us apart, piece by piece. We climbed down from the roof into the yard, the children shivering against Clara's chest. The fire behind us consumed the house in a roar of orange and black. The place I had built for my family, filled with memories both bitter and sweet, was turning to ash before my eyes. And somewhere in the woods, Lillian was clutching that folder. The one with my name on it, the one that held the truth I had buried for 3 decades. I sank onto the grass, trembling. My legs gave out beneath me. She'll never stop, I whispered. She won't stop until you all hate me. The way she does. Michael crouched in front of me, his hands gripping my shoulders. Then tell us the truth, Mom. No more secrets. Whatever's in that folder, whatever she knows, we need to hear it from you before she twists it into something else. My lips trembled. The fire popped and hissed behind us. Clara's sobs filled the silence. David's heavy breathing was like thunder in my ears. I opened my mouth. I was ready to finally tell them, to rip open the wound I had hidden for so long. But then, the sound of a car engine roared to life. We all spun around, eyes wide. Headlights flickered to life at the edge of the trees. "She has a car," David whispered. The headlights swung toward us, blinding bright, cutting through the smoke. The engine growled louder, wheels spinning on the wet grass. Michael pushed me down. "Get down." The car lunged forward, tires spitting mud, the engine screaming. Clara shrieked, clutching the children, as the headlights bore down on us like a beast. And behind the wheel, I saw her, Lillian. Her face pale, twisted with fury, her hair wild, her eyes locked on me. She was coming straight for me. The headlights swallowed me whole. For a heartbeat I couldn't move. My body froze, every muscle locking as Lillian's face glared at me from behind the wheel. Her hands clutched the steering wheel with white-knuckled rage. Her lips twisted into a smile that was both triumphant and cruel. The car lunged forward, engine screaming. "Move!" Michael roared, throwing himself into me with all his strength. The force of his body sent me crashing into the mud just as the car thundered past. So close I felt the wind whip my hair. So close I smelled the acrid smoke clinging to its tires. The bumper clipped Michael's shoulder, spinning him into the grass with a cry of pain. Clara screamed. The children wailed. David leapt forward, grabbing a rock and hurling it at the car. But it bounced uselessly off the hood. Lillian swung the car around in a wide, furious arc, the headlights sweeping over us again like a predator circling its prey. "She's going to kill us," Clara sobbed, clutching the kids tighter. "She's going to kill us all." I scrambled to Michael, helping him to his knees. His face was pale, teeth clenched against the pain in his arm. "We can't just stand here," he hissed. "She'll mow us down one by one." David's chest heaved, sweat pouring down his face despite the cold night air. "I'll draw her off. Get the kids into the woods." "No," Clara cried. "She'll kill you." But David was already moving, shouting and waving his arms to pull her focus. The car swerved toward him, its tires tearing up the grass. He dove aside at the last second, rolling through the mud, as the car barely missed him. "Run!" Michael shouted. "Into the trees." We stumbled toward the edge of the woods, Clara clutching the children, Michael half dragging me as my legs shook beneath me. The roar of the engine grew louder again as Lillian circled, faster, more reckless, her fury spilling out in every turn of the wheel. And then, for the first time, her voice cut through the night, carried through the rolled-down window. "You should have burned Maggie," she screamed, her words sharp as knives. "You should have burned with him." My heart shattered. The children cried harder. Clara's sobs broke into hiccups of fear. Michael's voice rose above it all, ragged and furious. "Why, Aunt Lillian? Why are you doing this?" The car skidded, stopped for a breathless moment, headlights blazing at us from just feet away. And there she was, Lillian in the driver's seat, her face finally clear in the glow. Her hair was streaked with gray, her skin pale and drawn, but her eyes, those dark, furious eyes, were alive with fire. Because she let him die. Lillian spat, pointing at me. Because she ran when she should have stayed. He begged for her, and she left him. My brother. My blood. I staggered forward, tears burning down my face. "Lillian, that's not true. I tried, I swear I tried, but the fire." "Liar!" she shrieked, slamming her hand against the steering wheel. The horn blared, long and cruel. The children screamed. Clara clutched them tighter. And then Lillian's foot hit the gas again. The car lunged forward. Time slowed. The world blurred. I shoved Clara and the kids sideways into the ditch. Michael pulled at me, but I tore free, turning back toward the car, because something inside me snapped. I couldn't run anymore. Not from her. Not from the past. As the headlights bore down on me, I stood my ground, tears streaming, voice shaking but strong. "Then take me, Lillian," I screamed. "But leave them out of this." The car thundered forward, closer, closer. And then, a gunshot cracked through the night. The windshield shattered. The car swerved wildly, tires screaming against the wet earth, spinning out of control. It veered off the yard, crashing into a tree with a sickening crunch of metal and glass. Smoke hissed from the hood. The headlights flickered. And for a long, terrible moment, silence fell. Michael turned to David, whose hands shook violently around the pistol in his grip. His face was pale, his eyes wide, but his jaw was set. Clara sobbed into her children's hair, whispering prayers. And I I could only stare at the wreck, my heart hammering, my throat dry. Because through the broken windshield, I saw her head rise slowly. Bloody, bruised, but alive. Lillian's eyes locked on mine, burning hotter than the flames of 30 years ago. And she smiled. The wrecked car hissed like a wounded animal, steam pouring from the broken hood. Glass glittered across the wet grass, headlights flickering weakly in the night. The children whimpered in Clara's arms, and Michael gritted his teeth as he clutched his injured shoulder. David stood frozen with the pistol in his hand, his knuckles white, his breath ragged. And then, Lillian moved. Her head lifted slowly from the shattered windshield. Her blood-streaked face turned toward me, her lips curling into a smile that was colder than the night air. Her eyes, sharp and unrelenting, locked onto mine. I felt the weight of 30 years pressing down on me. She pushed the twisted door open and stumbled out, dragging herself upright. The folder was still clutched to her chest, burned and tattered but intact. Her hand trembled, but her grip on it was iron. "You can't stop the truth, Maggie," she rasped, her voice broken yet venomous. "They'll see what you did. They'll finally know who you are." Michael stepped forward, but I raised a trembling hand. "No, he whispered. This is between me and her." The others froze. The fire behind us had almost burned itself out, leaving the night in eerie silence except for the distant crackle of collapsing wood. I stepped toward her. My body shook, my legs weak, but something inside me hardened. I was done running. "Lillian," I said, my voice raw, "you've punished me long enough. But this, dragging them into it, hurting the children, burning my home, that's not justice. That's cruelty." Her laugh was hollow, bitter. "Justice? Don't you dare speak of justice. He burned because of you. My brother called your name and you left him. You ran while his skin melted, while his lungs filled with smoke." Her words cut like knives, dragging me back to that night, the fire, the screams, the terror. I fell to my knees, tears blurring my vision. I didn't run. I tried to reach him, but the beams collapsed. I was dragged out by the firemen. I never forgave myself. Not for 1 second. "You think I wanted to live with this guilt? You should have died with him," she spat, her face twisted with rage. I shook my head, sobbing. "No. I was meant to live. To raise these children. To carry the pain. That's my punishment, Lillian. Not yours to give." For a moment her fury faltered. Her eyes flickered, uncertain. The folder trembled in her hands. Michael stepped closer, his voice steady but sharp. "If you give us that folder, this ends. We'll know the truth and you can stop hiding." But Lillian's grip tightened. "No. They'll hate her for it. That's the only way she'll ever pay." She lifted the folder high, her lips trembling as if ready to tear it open. And in that moment something inside me snapped. I lunged forward, not for the folder but for her. My arms wrapped around her, pulling her close. She gasped, shocked, as I held her tight, sobbing into her shoulder. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry. For him. For you. For everything. Hate me if you must, but don't destroy them." Her body shook in my arms. For the first time, I felt her weakness, her grief. Her breath hitched like a wounded child. And then she collapsed. The folder slipped from her grasp, falling into the mud. The children cried out. Clara rushed forward, clutching Daniel and Sarah close. Michael scooped up the folder, holding it as if it might explode. David hovered uncertainly, still gripping the gun, his eyes darting between me and Lillian. I cradled her head in my lap, brushing the blood and soot from her face. Her eyes fluttered open, softer now, broken. I just wanted him back," she whispered. My tears fell onto her cheeks. "I know. So did I. But we can't change the past." Her hand trembled in mine before falling limp. The night swallowed us in silence. Michael knelt beside me, the folder in his hand. He looked at me, his eyes full of questions, but also something else, something I had feared I'd lost forever. Compassion. "Mom," he whispered. "It's over." I nodded slowly, though my heart ached. "No, it's just beginning. Because now you deserve the truth." The days that followed blurred together. The fire department came. The police questioned us. Lillian's body was taken away, and with it, the torment of 30 years. But the scars she left, on my family, on my heart, remained. When the time came, I opened the folder with Michael, Clara, and David beside me. Inside were letters, photographs, fragments of the past. Some painted me in a light I wished they wouldn't, showing my moments of weakness, my failures as a wife, my fear as a mother. But others told the truth Lillian never wanted to see. That I fought. That I tried. That I carried my husband's memory not with pride, but with endless regret. The truth didn't destroy us. It bound us together. Because in the end, family is not built on perfection. It's built on forgiveness. And now, to everyone listening to my story, my name is Maggie, I'm 72 years old, and I've lived through fire, betrayal, and heartbreak here in the United States of America. If you've come this far with me, I want you to know one thing. The past may scar you, but it doesn't have to define you. Forgiveness is not about forgetting, it's about choosing to live again. Before I go, don't forget, subscribe, like, and click the notification bell so you won't miss more stories like mine. And tell me, from which part of the country are you watching this? I'd love to know. Thank you for listening.